When you get to the bottom of Grand Canyon, you're greeted by the Colorado River, the powerful force that carved the canyon. Along the way, you'll find spectacular views and challenges such as unsheltered exposure to the elements and a steep and strenuous hike. This video is a practical guide for hiking rim to rim on South Kaibab Trail, the shortest and fastest corridor trail to the river and the only one that's currently open. Please be advised that the Park Service says you should never hike rim to rim in a day, and I'm sure they're correct. Nonetheless, people regularly ignore this advice. But please understand this hike is a considerable undertaking and hikers regularly get in over their heads. Some even die. Know your limits and hike at your own risk. I like to start my hike before dawn, so although I will keep the points along the trail in order of occurrence, I recorded the first view on my return trip when the sun was out. So here we go with the trail guide. When you get to the Kaibab Trailhead, you're greeted by this sign. I've got a separate video about how to get to the South Kaibab Trailhead. It's not easy. A herd of elk inhabits the trailhead area, so don't be surprised to encounter them. They're generally acclimated to humans, but they remain wild animals weighing 500 to 800 pounds. I try to give them wide berth. The trailhead sits at an altitude of 7,620 feet and begins a sharp descent down the chimney, an area that is often covered in ice during the winter and covered in tourists during the summer. The trail then straightens out and leads you to the popular Point, 0.9 miles down the trail and a descent of 790 feet. Going down a series of switchbacks, you come to Cedar Ridge, 1.5 miles from the trailhead and a descent of 1,120 feet. This barren knoll is another popular day hike destination and has composting toilets, but no other facilities. There are no treated water sources on South Kaibab Trail. Moving on from Cedar Ridge, you pass O'Neill Butte and along the relatively level Mormon Flats to arrive at Skeleton Point, 3 miles from the trailhead and a descent of 2,040 feet. Between Cedar Ridge and Skeleton Point, there are several saddle areas where you can step a few feet to the west for clear views of Bright Angel Trail, the Devil's Corkscrew, Plateau Point Trail, and Tonto Trail. We're here at Skeleton Point, 3 miles from the trailhead, a very popular turnaround point for day hikers. If you go a little bit north of Skeleton Point, you get your first view of the river. You get probably 80% of the views on South Kaibab Trail between the trailhead and here. So it's a very rewarding day hike. We're going to keep going, but a lovely, lovely place to take a break and have a snack. Just steps beyond Skeleton Point, you get the first view of the river. And if you got an early start, you get to see the sunrise tinging the canyon walls. The origin of the name Skeleton Point is uncertain. There's a story that a team of mules went over the edge here and there were skeletons left. Of course, there's no historical evidence of that. It just makes a good story. I would imagine there was a skeleton here at one point, probably one of the bighorn sheep that frequent the area. That's the only large animals that you see here. But nonetheless, a beautiful area, Skeleton Point. You get a great view of the Colorado River just past Skeleton Point. And in the quiet, you can hear the river roar. As you come through the red section of the red and whites, this convenient sign lets you know you're about halfway to Phantom Ranch. I don't know much about the geology of the Grand Canyon, although it's pretty spectacular, but this is the point where the reds transition into the whites. The reds and whites. And right beyond here is that silver halfway sign. Mules coming down the trail. On this hike, we encountered 5 mule teams, all but one of which were double teams. The mules leave behind their waste products and tear up the surface of the trail. They carry supplies to Phantom Ranch for the high-paying guests, and they return their refuse to the rim, while hikers and backpackers need to carry in and carry out their supplies. Looking like a religious symbol against the forlorn gray January sky, this is one of the telephone poles from the Trans-Canyon phone line installed by the Civilian Conservation Corps in the 1930s. The Tonto Trail intersects South Kaibab Trail 4.5 miles from the trailhead at the Tipoff. This is a descent of 3,280 feet from the trailhead. The Tipoff is variously described as 4.4 or 4.5 miles from the trailhead. The only shelter that exists on South Kaibab Trail. This shelter was established in 2019, dropped off by a helicopter by the Grand Canyon Conservancy. Tipoff has composting toilets and an emergency phone. The only other composting toilets on South Kaibab Trail are at Cedar Ridge. About 2 miles to Black Bridge, about 2.3 to Boat Beach from here. And let's see how it goes. In exception to the rule that there is no water on the trail, the Conservancy has installed these rain-catching barrels. They collect water off the roof to give you some access to emergency water. Whoops, but not this one. Let's check the other one. Unreliable access to emergency water on the trail if you have a system of treating it. Better than nothing. I certainly have no desire to drink rainwater off a roof. The wind through the screens in the shelter creates kind of a haunted vibe. I imagine it's coming through on the microphones. I did want to talk for a second just about shoes. Everyone has their own favorite equipment. When I first started wearing hiking shoes, I wore them rather tight. I figured they should fit like a glove. But I've learned over time to leave some room for sliding. These are Topo Trail Venture 2, foot-shaped, very large. There's a lot of room for sliding on the downhills, which I very much appreciate on the steep downhills on the South Kaibab Trail. If the shoes were tighter, I'd have bruised toenails, and in this case, they've worked perfectly. Very, very comfortable, very, very effective. One of the things you should get is the equipment you need and deserve. Beyond the tip-off, you begin a relatively gentle descent through red dirt as you head towards the Colorado River. As you get closer to the river, the trail becomes a series of sharp switchbacks with a sudden descent to Black Bridge. Right before you reach Black Bridge on South Kaibab Trail, you come to the intersection of River Trail, which, if you're feeling energetic, you can loop over and go across Silver Bridge into Phantom or Bright Angel Campground. Looks like rain is threatening today. Started out with a 5% chance. This morning was a 10% chance. I'd say it's about a 30% chance now. I'm just going to water up at Boat Beach and head right back up to the rim. Black Bridge was built in 1928. The parts carried down by men and mules, and it's maintained the same condition since built till now. A marvel of modern engineering. Boat Beach just beyond. The Colorado River flows 1,450 miles from the high Rocky Mountains in Colorado all the way through the country of Mexico into the Gulf of California. Colorado means reddish color, although today maybe color verde would be a better name for it. A little bit green when it's moving slowly. The brown when there's fresh storms and storm water running through. Colorado River. Boat Beach is your first source of treated water once you reach the Colorado River, just short of Phantom Ranch and Bright Angel Campground. If you're going to Phantom or Bright Angel, it's still another half mile or so up the road. One always thinks that you just hit the Colorado River and you're right at each of those locations, but it's still a bit of a walk, sometimes a little bit frustrating when you expect that you're going to be there. There's a second source of water over in the Delta area where they have a restroom with flush toilets as well. The only flush toilets you'll find at this level of the canyon, so it's quite a treat. And considering that the weather is threatening and I didn't bring rain equipment, this is going to be the end of my Rim to River Trail. Going to water up and start heading back up towards the rim. Coming down the trail this morning, this area was solidly frozen. Not much of a challenge for traction. On the way up, it's pretty darn muddy. Still okay. Still haven't put on the foot traction devices, but I've got some ice trackers to use on the top of the trail where there should probably still be some snow and ice if necessary. Trail conditions do change over the day. The hike is over, back in the room, and I thought I'd try to put this a little bit into perspective. I'm enjoying one of the benefits of being an older hiker, and that is having a room on the rim, being able to come right up from a hike and take a hot shower. The hike was not quite what I expected. I was wearing shorts underneath my pants, expecting to take the pants off and be dealing with heat in the deep canyon. Instead, the day clouded over. There were high winds and low temperatures with heavy cloud cover. So not the typical Grand Canyon hike, but a good hike nonetheless. I was apprehensive of rain falling. No rain fell on me, although it was snowing on the North Rim about 8 miles away. So rain was a risk. I did not have rain clothes with me, which probably shows that I should prepare better in the future. But it is what it is. The risk was taken and it was complete. I started this hike with the thought that nothing in life that's truly worth doing is ever easy, and it's true. I was up at 2:45 in the morning, in the car at 5, at the trailhead at 5:30, hiking. The hike took 10 hours, all told, 5 hours down, 5 hours up, which includes breaks and making videos as well, which are time consuming. Why do it? I don't know. I suppose it's a feeling of accomplishment. I could sit around the house and have an easy life. I could go out to a restaurant and eat. Why get up early in the morning? Why have physical strain on your body and so forth? I guess for the challenge, I guess for the feeling of accomplishment. And I guess it makes me feel as if I'm alive. And in truth, nothing in life that's worth doing is ever easy. This takes some effort, but it was a great hike and I'm glad I did it. I appreciate your coming along. Thank you for watching.